All right, welcome everyone, and we're glad to be back broadcasting from our flagship station here at the Agudas Yisrael Beis Zev of Fairways Lakewood. We are in this trip through Makos, being co-sponsored by Eddie Chazan, Refuah Shalema for Yedidia Ben Penina, Shoshana Bas Penina, and Simone Bas Rachel. We are co-sponsored the Nishmas Dov Ben Chaim, Refuah Shalema for Elio Moshe Mechai Sarah, Yaakov Ben Bas Yilei, and for the Schus of Avraham Miriam Ben Ishmael Malki Yudis and family. And we are co-sponsored by Shelley Zeitlin for the schus of his children, Eli and Orit and Ora, and for my refuah, Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel. And I want to mention that tonight is today, not tonight, today is Yisrael Fish's father's Yortzeit, and that is Shlomo ben Avram Alevi. The Neshama should have an Aliyah, should be a Meltz Yosher, for his family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. We are holding.
Rabbi, tonight is my father's Yartzeit.
Okay, it's your Zaydi's Yartzeit, whose name is
Avraham ben Shlomo Halevi.
Avraham ben Shlomo Halevi. His neshama should have an Aliyah. He should be a Meltz Yosher for the family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. We start by the second Mishnah towards the bottom, 4 lines from the bottom of Yud Beis and Mid Beis, as the Mishnah tells us, K'yotzei bay. Similarly, Roitzeach shegala le'ir miklotai. A murderer, and of course, murderer is a harsh word, the killer b'shogeg. But you see that the Mishnah calls him a Roitzeach. That's how seriously is not being careful with someone else's life. You know, the concern for life in Yiddishkeit is very, very great. You know, even a minute of life. One is considered a murderer if one closes the eyes of a living person. You're not supposed to touch a geisus. And if you usher in a person's death even by 1 minute, you're considered a killer. So we take life extremely seriously. That's why when, you know, I am not fond of people putting themselves into danger for recreational purposes. Like, I do not believe that people should go jumping out of planes for thrills. We have a very, very strong concern for life, and it's different. In American society, we would never use the term rotzeach on somebody that kills a person b'shogeg. You know, he was unloading barrels, and the barrel fell, or he slipped off a ladder and he killed someone. We would never call him a killer, right? Except if it was Marshall. We would never do that. So just an example of the high regard that Chazal puts on human life. So similarly, so let's say Marshall killed somebody b'shogeg and he went into exile, and and they wanted to give him a position of honor. They wanted to appoint him as the president of the shul, right? Because he makes good Romanian francs. First he has to decline and say, but you know, I killed somebody b'shogeg. Amrulai, but if they tell him, Afal Pikain, we want to appoint you even so, then Yekabel Mehem. Then he could accept the position. In other words, if he first declines and they say even so, Shenema v'zed dvar haroitzeach, and it's dvar in singular. The Reitzach has to say one word. He has to initially say no. If they insist anyway, then he could do the job. Malim hayu schar l'Leviim. When he goes into exile, he has to pay rent to the Levium. That's different in Rabbi Yehuda. Rameir says no, he doesn't have to pay rent. Now, what about when the Kohen Gadol dies? Can he go back to his position? Let's say he was an Av Bezdin in his city. Could he go back to his position of authority? He could go back to his office. No, he was disgraced as a killer b'shaygeg, and he can't go back to any position that he had. Now, if you remember, there are 6 official Ori Miklatos, 3 on the Transjordan and 3 in Eretz Yisrael proper, and then there's also the 42 cities of Levium. So the Gemara says, Amrav Kahana Machloikis B'Sheish. The question of whether he has to pay rent is only by the 6 cities. The Mar Savar Lachem Leklita, when it says that the city will be for you, it's just for refuge, but you have to pay. Umar Savar Lachem Lekol Tzarchechem, it's for you for all your needs, and you live there rent-free. Aval Barbam Mishtayim, but the 42 cities of Levium, Divra Akolo Yamal Lem Schar, everybody holds that you have to pay rent.
Where's he getting his money for rent? I mean, he's running for his life.
What do you mean? Once he lives there in the city, he's going to get a job. He's living in a city. Marshall's going to become a cook, Romanian francs. Amar Rava. Rava says no. Rava says no. In the 6 cities, the 6 official cities of refuge, it's for you, for all your needs, and he lives there rent-free. The Machloikis is only the 42 cities of the Levium. The Mar Savar va'alehem titnu, and upon the 6th is also the 42 cities. Ki hanach leklita. It means that they are like the 6 only for refuge. Umar Savar alehem titnu ki hanach. They are exactly like the 6. Ma'hanach lekol tzarchechem, he lives there rent-free. Avhaninami lekol tzarchechem. Aval b'sheish, but in the 6 cities of refuge, everybody holds he lives there rent-free. Divra kol lo yoyel mal lem schar, everybody holds that he doesn't pay rent. Chayzer l'srara shahoyaba, if once the Kohen Gadol dies and he returns to his city, Marshall could return to his position of authority. That's the opinion of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says no, he was disgraced as a killer b'shageg, and he can't return to his position of authority. Tan Rabbanan. Now, this pasuk is a borrowed pasuk. This pasuk is not talking about Marshall as a killer. This is talking about where Marshall was a slave. He once robbed the bank, and he was sold himself as a slave, and then he decided to stay until Yovel, and he got his ear pierced. If you look closely at his left ear, you'll see it. He got his ear pierced, and those aren't for earrings, and he goes free at Yovel. So at Yovel it says, V'shav el mishpachtai, he can return to his family, V'lachuzas avoisav, and to the possessions of his ancestors. So we darshan Yoshev l'mishpachta Yushav, Yoshev l'mishpachta Yushav. He returns to his family. Ve'eno shav l'masher ziku avaisav, but he doesn't return to the positions of his father. If he had a hereditary position of greatness, he doesn't return to that since he was sold as a slave. Divrei Reb Yehuda. Rameir says, Afu shav l'masher ziku avaisav. He also returns to the position, hereditary positions of his ancestors, because it says, Elachuzas avaisav kavaisav. V'chein b'geila. And just like that's true by a slave, it's also true when Marshall was exiled because he killed B'shageg. Because Kishu Aimer Yoshev, the word Yoshev is extra, L'Rabbi says a Retzeach, because by by a killer, it also uses the word Yoshev. The pasuk says Yoshev Haroitzeach. The Reitzach returns. So we learn out Kishu Omer Yoshev l'Rabbis es Haroitzeach. So now the Gemara says Mai v'chein begeila. We're going to specify that originally we were talking about a slave because that's what the pasuk is talking about, and we learn out the Gezeira Shava Yoshev to a killer b'shayge. Kedetanya Yoshev Haroitzeach al Eretz Achuzasai. L'Eretz Achuzasai Yushav. He only returns to his ancestral land, but he doesn't return to the positions of authority that he had via hereditary rights. He returns even to that which his fathers had hereditary, because Gavar Shiva Mehasam, he learns out Gzeira Shava Yoshev from the slave, just like the slave at Yovel returns also to his hereditary positions, so also does Marshall. Hadrulach Elohei Nagoylin, Hadrulach Elohei Nagoylin, Hadrulach Elohei Nagoylin. Isn't that something, Rabbi Isai? We've already finished 2 prakim in Makos. What an accomplishment.
And I've spent a month in Gullus.
Marshall, there's a lot worse for you in store, don't worry.
Can I take Barry with me? I don't want to be bored.
We'll use Barry when you know you're a little comatose. Now, speaking about Marshall, ve'elu hein haloikin. The following are those that are flogged. Now, this is going to be, and you know what? As I get ready to start the 3rd parak, I want to welcome in Shimon Klein and Mel Zachter and Dr. Yudel and Michael and Aaron Swade and Baruch Ian, Marshall Castle, Yaakov Warman, Dr. Block. Dr. Block, thank you for agreeing to sponsor the Chumash here this week. Thank you very much. Shelley Zeitlin, Saba, Menachem Umansky, Barry Cement, Dov Solkowitz, Itchy, Daniel Rosenberg, Moshe Lehman, Ilya Shutman, Nachman Chapler, Naftali Jablin, Danny Vogel, and Yitzi Muller, Avram Rezepkowitz. We have David Helfgott on Kol HaLashon, and we have Yisrael Fisher via Tannersville, or coming home from Tannersville, and are you wearing a shtreimel?
No, just the angle.
Oh, it looked like you were wearing a shtreimel. There are Hasidim that wear a shtreimel on Isruchai.
Now, I actually had to find a minion in Kingston, and now I'm driving back to Tannersville.
Oh, Kingston is very near to the Yeshiva of Staten Island. The Yeshiva of Staten Island is in Krogson, which is quite near Kingston, the camp. I have many memories of being in that camp together with Ramosha. Anyway, Mo Kushner is with us. There is Mo Kushner. Mo, it's great to see you. Look at Mo. He's getting younger. Mo, I think you're getting younger. Pesach is good for you. Mo, you should be zeichet to eat many more afikoimim in Yetz Hashem. Okay. Now, what a tremendous island. What a great island. What do you do, Marshall? You scared away Mark? When you were away, he was here.
I keep missing him.
I don't know. I'm beginning to think that he's trying to avoid you. Now.
Must be my new deodorant. I'm sorry.
Okay, who's coming in now for our 27th Zoomer of the evening? Shimon Klein's back. And Shimon was starting the new parak. The following get flogged. Now, there's a big chiddush over here. The Tan of our Mishnah holds that we give malchus to people that are chayiv chorus. So, somebody who sleeps with his sister, his father's sister, his aunt, his mother's sister, his wife's sister, his brother's wife, al eshes achi aviv, and the wife of his father's brother, all of valanido, if he sleeps with his wife, or a woman that's a menstruant, all of these are isurei kares, and he gets malchus. Almanul kain gadol, if a kain gadol sleeps with a widow, grusha v'chalutza l'kain hedyot, a grusha or a chalutza to a kain hedyot. Now over here, Rashi is of the opinion that we learn out a chalutza from a pasuk, because it says v'isha grusha me'isha loy. V'isha grusha me'isha, you're not allowed to take. Now, the word v'isha is superfluous, and it tells us that a kohen is not allowed to marry a chalutza. Mamzeres u'nesina liyisrael. If a mamzeres is a girl, let's say, that's born from a isur kares or an isur misa, let's say a child of adultery. A nesina is a woman who was megaya, but she was a givaini. Now the givainim fooled, they were from the 6 nations that are forbidden, and they fooled Yeshua, and therefore Rashi over here says that the givaini has a isser of leisischatein bam. So both of these are lavin, or Bas Yisrael l'nasan u'lamamzer, or Bas Yisrael to a ger givaini or a mamzer. In all of these cases, there's going to be malchus, because these are Isurei Lav.
Both participants get the same thing.
Both participants get. It's no discrimination.
This is for the women also, right?
That's what we just said, both participants. Now, let's say the Kohen Gadol sleeps with a widow who is also a divorcee. Almana grusha chayavan aleh mishum shnei shaymas. Then we give 2 malchus. So if Marshall is a Kohen Gadol and he sleeps with a woman who was divorced, married again, and got widowed, he gets flogged twice. Like we said, Marshall, there's more yet to come. Right? We're going to see that you could be flogged 8 times for one sin. So break out the Ben-Gay and the opiates. You're going to need heavy opiates, maybe even or more.
Give me my shield.
Maybe even a morphine button. So anyway, as we welcome in Reb Keneal for our 28th Zoomer of the evening. We got to get our numbers back up over here. Our numbers are slipping a little bit. So anyway, says the Gemara, Gerusha v'chalutza. Oh, this is interesting. If it's a regular kain, she's a divorcee and also a chalutza. Since the source for chalutza is in the same pasuk as grusha, the isha grusha, the isha loy lukachu, you shouldn't take, and it's all one lav, so eina chayev ela mishum achas bilvad. There's only one malchus because it's all from the same lav. These are other lavim. If somebody who has a tumas haguf that eats kachim, now this is actually again a chorus, but we give malchus for chorus. V'habal mikdash tami, or if somebody was tumas haguf and he enters into the area of the mikdash. Or v'oichel chelav v'dam, if somebody eats forbidden fat or blood, these are all isurei kairos. Nicer is if, let's say, a shlomim could only be eaten for 2 days and 1 night, and after the 2 days and 1 night, it is nicer. If you eat nicer, it's an isurei kairos. Pigel means that if somebody does, the kohen has in mind, during one of the 4 avodas hadam, one of the 4 blood services, shlita, kabbalah, halacha, zrika, he has in mind to eat the carbon after its permitted time, so that carbon becomes pigel and it's an iser kares. V'tamei, or if somebody eats kachim that is tamei, V'ashoichet mala b'chutz, or somebody shechts or offers up kachim outside of the temple, which is again an isikaris. V'oichel chametz b'Pesach, if somebody eats chametz on Pesach, just missed Pesach with this one. If somebody eats chametz on Pesach, v'oichel v'oisem malacha b'Yom Kippurim, if you eat or you do work on Yom Kippur, these are all isurei karis. V'amafatem es Hashem, there's a special formula for making the Shemen HaMishcha, and you're not allowed to duplicate that formula. If you duplicate that formula for your own personal use, or the mafatem esakteris, if you duplicate the formula of the incense for your own personal use, v'asach b'Shemen HaMishcha, or you anoint yourself with the anointing oil, v'oichel nevelas u'treifas, if somebody eats nevela, that's an animal that died without shechita, or treifa, an animal even if it's slaughtered but it had a fatal flaw that it couldn't live for a year, shkatzim, if you eat abominable creatures like reptiles and lizards and other types of insects, uremosim. Now, some translate remosim as creatures that came about spontaneously, like growing in dung, etc. Others say that remosim are creatures that are so low on the ground that they look like they're one with the ground, like beetles and such. Achal tevel, if you eat untithed produce, tevel is a corruption of tovloi, it's no good, as we welcome in Chaim Kramer for our 29th Zoomer of the evening. Welcome Chaim, as we are holding in the Mishnah on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, 6 lines from the bottom. Or Ma'aser Rishon Shaloi Nitlu Trumasai, you ate Ma'aser Rishon that the Trumas Ma'aser wasn't given to the Kayin, or Ma'aser Sheni v'Hekdesh, or if you eat Ma'aser Sheni and Hekdesh Shaloi Niptu, that wasn't redeemed. Now, Kama Yoichel Min HaTevel V'yei Chayiv, how much do you have to eat from Tevel, from untied produce to be Chayiv? Reb Shimon Aimer Kolshu. Reb Shimon says even one kernel of wheat, because he holds that a kernel of wheat is a barrier, is like a creature, and he holds your chayiv even if it's less than a kazayis. The Chacham say there's no achila of less than a kazayis. Amalei Rabbi Shimon, don't you admit to me that kolshu, that if you eat an ant you're chayiv even if the ant, if it's a whole ant, even if it's very small. Shu chayiv amrulai. He said that's different. Shu kibriyasa. That's a barrier, that's a creature. I view also one kernel of wheat to have its own significance, because it itself is also like a creature. Has its own identity, even if it's less than a kazayis. Now, our Mishnah says that there's malchus by chayvei krisis, but it doesn't say adultery. It doesn't say desecrating the Shabbos. It doesn't say idolatry. So chayvei krisis katani, chayvei misas bezdin loy katani. It only says there's malchus by chayvei krisis, like sleeping with a sister or a nida, or eating on Yom Kippur, but not by chayvei misas bezdin. Masnisin Mani, who's the author of our Mishnah, Rabbi Akiva. The Tanya will see that Rabbi Shmuel disagrees. The Tanya, echad chayvei krisis ve'echad chayvei misas bezdin, whether it's karis or even death, like adultery or desecrating the Shabbos or idolatry. Yeshna b'chlal malchus abam. There could be flogging. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva says no. Chayvei krisis yeshna b'chlal malchus abam. Only by an isikaris, like sleeping with a sister. Shem also tshuva, because over there, if you do tshuva, best in shalmala moichel in them, the heavenly court is moichel. But chayvei misas bezdin ain't b'chlal malchus abam, because there is no mechila. He has to get the death sentence. Shem also tshuva ain't bezdin shalmata moichel in them. So he already gets death sentence. He doesn't get malchus. Rabbi Yitzchak says, chayvei krisis bichlal hayu. The Rabbi Yitzchak disagrees. Rabbi Yitzchak holds there's no malchus even by chayvei krisis, because Rabbi Yitzchak says there's a general chorus for all immoral sexual relationships. So why by a sister does it single out that this chorus by a sister? To tell you that this chorus and not malchus. So here we have three opinions. We have the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael that there's malchus even by chayvei misas bezdin, like adultery and desecrating the Shabbos. We have the opinion of Rabbi Kiva that there's malchus only by chayvei krisis, and we have an opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak that there's no malchus by chayvei krisis, only by chayvei lavin. So the Gemara says, my time in the Rabbi Yishmael, dichsiv im lo sishma lasais es kol divrei HaTorah azais. If you don't heed to do all the words of the Torah, and right afterwards, v'ksiv v'hifla Hashem es makoischa. Hashem will make wondrous your beatings, as we see with Marshall. Now, I don't know what does it mean, wondrous. The shofet knocks him down, v'yikol lefonav, and beats him in front. Now, where does it say malchus? It says it by kol divrei HaTorah azais. V'ksiv im lo yisishma lasais as kol divrei HaTorah azais. So then maybe, even if you don't say Kriya Shema Bizmanoi, you should also get malchus. Even if you're a Mavatal Mitzvah Sasei, you should also get malchus. Iachi Chayve Asei Name, says the Gemara, Im Loi Sishmor Ksiv, if you don't heed. And the word Shamar means a lav. Ukid Rabbi Avan Am Rabbi Loi, Dam Rabbi Avan Am Rabbi Loi, Kol Makom Shenemer, he Shamar Pen Va'al. If he uses any of these phrases, he Shamar pen or al, eino yela loisase. So then you should get malchus even if it's a lav shem by maisa, even if it's just talking. Iyachi lav shem by maisa nami, we don't give malchus for lashon hara. It's a lav shem by maisa. So the Gemara says, but listen to what the pasuk says: Im lo yisishmar lasais ksiv. But maybe we should give malchus for stealing even if you return the theft. Now we don't. The din is that a lav hanitik lasei we don't give malchus because, for example, noiser is a lav hanitik lasei because it says loisasiru mimenu ad baiker va'noiser mimenu ad baiker be'eish disreifel. So it gives us a way to correct it. It says ve'eishav esakzel asher gazel. But if the pasuk says it's called divrei HaTorah azais, so then lav shenitik lasei nami. We should give malchus even for a lav that's connected to a positive reform. Says Gemara, no. Because right next to malchus, where it says malchus in the Torah, it says lo yisachsoim shor b'dishay. If you want to know why Marshall always has that reddish look, he gets beaten up because he always muzzles his axe when it threshes. Now you're not allowed to muzzle your axe when you thresh. And I know Marshall is more worried about his hot dogs. He's the only person I know that threshes hot dogs, but that's besides the point. Says the Gemara, Dumya de lav de chasima. It's similar to the lav of muzzling. Oh, by the lav of muzzling, that's not a lav anitik lasei. There's no way to correct it. You're just not allowed to muzzle your animal. Says the Gemara, Hashta da'asis lahachi. Now that we arrived at the comparison to muzzling, kulunami dumya de lav de chasima. It's no question about an asay or a lav shein b'maisa, because it has to be similar to muzzling, which is a lav sheyesh b'maisa, and it has to be similar to muzzling that it's not a mitzvah saseh, it's a lav. Says the Gemara, as we welcome back in Rabbi Yisrael, who is now on terra firma back in Tannersville. Our elusive 30th Zoomer is not here yet. Mark, this is a shout out to you that you're missing. I'm missing other people too. We're missing a lot of other people here. Gedalia, where are you, Gedalia? Now, Rabbi Akiva, my timer, Rabbi Akiva says that there is no malchus by a death sentence. So the Gemara says, Kedei Rish Asai, it says in the pasuk, Kedei Rish Asai, according to his wickedness, and that's in the singular. Mishum Risha Achas Ata Mechayva, we only give him for one guilt, V'yata Mechayva Mishum Shtei Rishayis. So we don't give him Misa and Malchus. So what does Rabbi Yishmael do with the pasuk of Kedei Rish Asai? Rabbi Yishmael, Hani Mili Misa Mammon or Malchus Mammon. We don't give a death sentence and make him pay, or Malchus and make him pay. Aval Misa or Malchus, but a death sentence and Malchus, Malchus is the beginning of the death. Misa Arichtei, it's one long death. It starts with Malchus and it finishes off with the execution, and that we do. Rabbi Akiva, according to you, Rabbi Akiva, that you dash in the pasuk of Kedei Rishasai, Ihachi Chayve Krisis Nami, then we should say the same thing for one that is Chayiv Karis, that he shouldn't get Karis and Malchus because it says Kedei Rishasai Mishum Risha Achas and not for two Rishayis. My Amrit She'im Asu Tshuva. What are you going to say? Well, but he might do Tshuva. But Hashtami Yislayavdei. Now he didn't, and therefore we should give him Malchus. Amr Rabbi Avo Befeirish Ripsa Torah Chayve Krisis Malchus. That's Rabbi Kiva holds that even though it says Kedei Rishasai, we have a pasuk that's Marba Chayve Krisis for Malchus. The Gomer le'enei mele'enecha. Oh, it says it says a Gzeira Shava. It says le'enei by Karis. Right? The pasuk says Nichrisu le'enei b'nei Amam, and it says le'enecha by Malchus. V'nikla achicha le'enecha. So we learn out le'enei le'enecha. That is Malchus by Chayve Krisis. Says the Gemara, if that's so, Maskevur of Abba Bar Mamel, Ihachi Chayve Mises Bezdin Nami, by the Chayve Mises Bezdin, we should also Nigmaren Me'ene Mele'enecha. By Chayve Mises Bezdin, the pasuk says, Im Me'ene Ha'eda. So it says Me'ene by Mises Bezdin, and it says Le'enecha by Malchus, so we should say that there's Malchus by Mises Bezdin too. So the Gemara says, well, Donin Le'ene Mele'enecha. Le'ene and Le'enecha is similar. Ve'ein Donin Me'ene Mele'enecha. We don't learn out Me'ene from Le'enecha, that's different. Says the Gemara, my nafkamina. Does it have to be exact? Vatana debei Rabbi Yishmael v'shava kain uba kain. We can make a gzeira shava kain. The kain returns uba kain, and the kain comes both to a leprous house. Zui shiva v'zui bia. Both are coming to the house. It doesn't have to be the same word. V'oid, and furthermore, even if you'll say me'ene and le'enecha is not the same, but ligmar me'ene, learn out me'ene, that it says by the death sentence, im me'ene ha'eda, learn it out from the din of Karis. V'nichrisu le'enei b'nei Anam. Me'enei and le'enei are sufficiently similar. And once we've already learned out Karis from that is Malchus by Karis, then we can learn out Misa from Karis, because me'enei and le'enei is similar. Says the Gemara, because we already learned out Karis from Le'enecha by Malchus. Says the Gemara, so there's another answer. You know why he doesn't use the pasuk of Kedei Rish Asai to exclude Malchus by Karis, Kibla Minei Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yitzchak heard from him the explanation because Kedei Rish Asai means that you can't do two court implemented punishments. Mishum Risha Achas Atem Mechayvai, you can't give two court inflicted punishments. So that's why you can't give Misa and Malchus, but Choris and Malchus, which is not two court inflicted penalties, that you could do. Rava explains the parameters over here of the Machlokes differently. Rava Amar, Asur Beila Katala, if let's say we warned Marshall that if you kill somebody you're going to get executed, then Kuli Almaloi Pligi de Ein Like Umes. He doesn't get Malchus and executed. He's just executed. And get over with it already. Just executed and that's it. And we're very happy to have Richard Rosenzweig joining us for our 30th Zoomer of the evening. Richard, it's wonderful to have you. And we are on the first wide line of Daf Yud Gimel Amid Beis. The first wide line of Daf Yud Gimel Amid Beis. So Rava Amar Asur Beila Katala. If we tell Marshall that if you kill this person, you're going to be put to death, so Kuli Amalei Pligi de Ein Like Mace. Everybody holds that he doesn't get Malchus and executed. He just gets executed and finished. Ki Pligi de Asur Beila Malchus. Oh. They told Marshall, if you kill this person, you're going to get flogged. So obviously we're not going to execute him because we didn't want him for execution. But there's a lav of Leisirtzach. So the question is, does he get Malchus? Rabbi Shmuel Savar, lav shenita nasaris misas bezin, even though it's a lav that carries a capital punishment, still like an olav. If they give him a warning of Malchus, we give him Malchus. Rabbi Kiva Savar, Rabbi Kiva says, no, there's only a penalty of death. He's not going to get death because they botched it up. Right? They gave him the wrong warning, but he's not getting Malchus because there's no Malchus. It's a death sentence. Rabbi Kiva Savar, lav shenita nasaris misas bezin, ain't like an olav. Says the Gemara of Rabbi Kiva, then why by chorus does he get Malchus? Rabbi Kiva iachi chayvi krisis nami lav shenitin lasaris chorusu. The lav is for chorus, not for Malchus. Amalei Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi hocher ami avim miyagruni mishmei derava chayvi krisis leitzrichi hasra. Chayvi krisis doesn't need a warning. You get chorus even if you don't get warned. That's a misa from Shemayim. And the proof is that there's two chorus that are mitzvahs asayis, right? You have to do milah, and the Korban Pesach both carry a penalty of chorus. There's no warning over there. There's no warning that if you don't do the Korban Pesach, you're going to get chorus. If you don't circumcise, you're going to get chorus. Shai Pesach milah onash, there's a penalty afal pishaloi hezek. Says the Gemara, but maybe the reason that there's a lav by chorus is that if Marshall does it b'shoigeg, he has to bring a korban chatas. That's the law. If he's mechal Shabbos b'shoigeg, he has to bring a chatas. If he worships idolatry b'shoigeg, he has to bring a chatas. If he
all time, you don't have to. If you didn't do it on the 8th day, you can do it till he's 1,000 years old.
what?
Mila is an ongoing thing. It can always be done. Pesach is a zman kavua. Mila was on the 8th day. You tell me if someone on the 9th day you're gonna.
That's correct. If you're an adult and you delay it, it's a chiyuv kares. That's correct.
What is the current?
Barry called the mail. So says the Gemara, Vidilma Ashara lekarbon. Again, maybe the warning, you're telling me that the warning by chorus must be for Malchus, because it's not for the Chiyuv Kares, because for that you don't need a warning. But maybe the warning is that if he does it unwittingly, he's Chayav Achatas. The Dilma Ashara LeKarman, the Pesach or Mila, the Lesbu Ashara Leimaisi Karman. The Taka the din is, if you don't do a bris, or you don't bring the Karman Pesach, you don't bring a Karman Chatas. Says the Gemara, Hasam Lav Hainu Taima. That's not the reason why he brings a Karman. That's not the reason why he brings a Karman. Ella, says the Gemara, Mishum de iskish kol ha-Torah kula l'avodas kechavim. The whole Torah is juxtaposed to idolatry. And just like idolatry is a case of Sheva al Tasa, is a case what the Gemara is now saying, it's interesting what the Gemara is saying over here. The Gemara says that the reason why you're not chayav achatas for not bringing the Korban Pesach and for not circumcising is not because there's no warning there. It's because we learn out the chiyuv chatas b'shogeg from a juxtaposition to idolatry. Hasam lav hainu taima el mishum de iskish kol ha-Torah kula avodas kechavim. All the laws of achatas are compared to idolatry. Now, idolatry is something that you're not supposed to do. Ma avodas kechavim sheva al tasa, sit and don't do it. Af kol sheva al tasa. Lafuke hani, that excludes the Pesach and Mila, that's not something that you should sit and not do, but rather they're a kumaseh. So therefore, the reason why there's a warning by chayve krisus, says the Gemara, is not because of the chiyuv chatas, but is because, like we said, to tell you that by chayve krisus, Rabbi Kiva holds, there is going to be malchus, unlike Rabbi Yitzchak, who says that by chayve krisus there's no malchus. That's why it says the extra chorus by achoisai to tell us that chayve krisus does not have malchus. All right, we're going to stop over here of this very interesting Gemara, and we want to remind you again tomorrow night. Daf Yomi is at 8:20, and if there wants to be a second sponsor for this week's Chumash Share, 718-916-3100. rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.